Well, frankly, I must say that I like this budget. Not that it matters, but I like this budget. And I like the way the minister delivered the budget. I think there was a lot of heart in the way he conveyed it. And to be very honest, quite a few budget speeches in the earlier years were cold fish budget speeches. So I really like the spirit with which the budget speech was delivered, because I think there's a certain sense of sincerity that comes through. Minister, I've got two quick questions for you. One, some of these initiatives people feel are long overdue, right? And a lot of these initiatives coincidentally started coming about after the last general election. So how much of these initiatives, which are laudable, are motivated by a genuine desire by this government to see a greater democratization of abilities and less driven by winning votes? I'd like to put it very bluntly. Second, I like in particular what the minister said, the Minister for Finance said, we must become a meritocracy of skills, not a hierarchy of grades earned in life. You know, the whole issue of meritocracy that has become a catalyst for stratification of society. These criticisms have come about. And to what extent is the government not just desirous, but willing to set an example in saying that academic grades alone are not that important? You know, these are the two questions I have for you for starters, Minister.
Thank you very much, Vishwa. I think if you look at budgets, they're about how we as a nation, as a country, allocate our resources. And so it's always going to be dependent on the needs at different stages of our development. So at the earlier stages, it was about survival. It was about building up from scratch. But we are 50 years down the road of independence, and it's no longer an issue of survival per se, but it is more an issue of how we can give Singaporeans continued opportunities for growth, for advancement, give Singaporeans opportunities to care for their families in the way that they wish, give Singaporeans the means to also pursue a life of purpose that is meaningful to them. So it is a very different kind of set of challenges that we faced in today's context, and the budget must respond to this change. And I think the second point which you brought up on moving towards a meritocracy of skills, it has to do with the kind of values that we hold dear as a society. What worked for us for the last 50 years, which is the idea of meritocracy, continues to be important. But meritocracy of what? When we were a nation where the average standards of education was not very high, and our human capital was at a relatively low base, there was a certain relevance in the emphasis on education. It provided individuals, people with the opportunities to work, which then gave them resources to grow their families. But we are at a different stage now. And grades alone is not going to cut it. We know this. We know that the future will present challenges in terms of how people are going to be able to have their skills valued. And we also know that there are opportunities that have not been present before. For example, if a person is starting a business, today the set of conditions are quite different from even 20 years ago. So moving from what we have today to a meritocracy of skills is relevant for its time, and is going to be something that will take a fair bit of effort for us to get used to.
I think the meritocracy of skills, no arguments about it. But are we prepared to move away from the hierarchy of grades?
I think we must. And I think increasingly...
I agree we must, but are we prepared to?
And I think we increasingly see that there are young people and families who are shifting away from this. Perhaps not in enough numbers as we'd like to see. But if I were to reflect on what it was, say about 20 years ago, where it was quite difficult even to encourage entrepreneurship. And if you look at the situation today, people coming out of schools being very receptive to the idea of entrepreneurship, it has taken just that 15 or 20 years or so to see this change of attitude, see this change in values. And I think that if we put our minds to it, it's a change that can come about.